I'm Susan, and today I'm going to talk about how to become immortal. And before I start to talk about all the details on that topic, I want to explain both why I'm choosing to talk about that topic and also dive into some of my background. My Swedish-speaking audience already know a lot about me, and my English-speaking audience also knows some about me if you watch my previous videos. And I especially gave a background of myself in my presentation that is up on YouTube. That's called Life Now and Forever. That I actually translated from a Swedish presentation. But I will give a short recap here as well. And there I explained that I remember coming to Earth. I remember why I came here, what the purpose of me being here is. So I come here with a bit different background. I don't perceive myself as different as such. Maybe other people do. I just think it's pretty normal. And if everyone remembered, they would remember previous lifetimes and they would remember a lot more about life. So I just feel that I'm very grateful of being here and actually help people remember who they are. And everything I teach and talk about is simple. I try to keep it simple because life isn't complicated and the whole thing with the spiritual path isn't complicated. On the contrary, it's pretty easy. It's not without difficulty, but it's still easy. But it's not complicated. And as we will get into today, the ego is trying to make it complicated, but life as such is not complicated. And before I jump into today's topic, I want to give some background. So my story, shortly, is that I remember coming to Earth. I remember past lives. And for me, this always been normal. And ever since I came here, I learned that it's not so normal. And most people have forgotten. They have forgotten who they are. And therefore forgotten pretty much everything. So if you can't remember why you are here, why you came here, what you're supposed to be doing here, you might feel a bit lost, while in your heart you still have a sense of what you want. You want to evolve, you want to become yourself, you want to become happy, you want to have answers and all of that. And of course we seek those answers in the so-called spiritual paths. And these are a myriad of spiritual paths on Earth. And a lot of maps that's supposed to direct you and point the way towards home. So when I came here, and I remember this very clearly, I had been on previous missions, these helping missions, and then I was presented to this place. It was almost like I saw Earth, and they explained that the population there, they are asleep. So I understood that they were not so conscious. And they said, during a very short time, in their sense, during a lifetime that they experience, they're going to wake up. It's going to be a huge deal. Because it's going to feel very weird from believing that you are awake to really waking up for real. So this was a lot of focus on this place to start with. This was like a popcorn event. And the call went out to a wide variety of directions in the universe. So what happened was basically a call out for anyone who wished to come and help. Come here. This is the mission. This is what's going to take place here. So this was a really big deal. And of course I wanted to be there. I got the sense of what I could accomplish and what would happen and all of that. So I said yes. And when you say yes to something, it's not like you take a ship and you land on a planet and you jump out of the ship. No, it's like going within, changing dimension. So I experienced a short time of not remembering anything and becoming conscious on this state. So the very first impressions, when I really start to get my consciousness here, was pretty much horror, because I felt that I landed in a big, deep, dark well, and that I was in some kind of nightmare state. I felt it was like this. I think I described it as the third subplane of an already nightmarish state. So yeah, really like waking up to a very bad dream. So I didn't think this place, this state of existence was even real. That's how bad it was. And for a long time while being here, I experienced this so-called waking day as the dream. And every time I went to bed, I went back home, being awake, only to wake up here and falling asleep, being trapped in a nightmare. So yeah, so that was my experience consciously coming here, while at the same time, in this process, my soul kind of went to and forth. And I remember checking it out and realizing, okay, I'm trying to communicate with those around me. They don't understand me. And of course, that was because I was a small baby and I couldn't pronounce words. And obviously, no one understood this telepathy thing. So hence, it took a while to fully get stated here. So just to disclaim this as fast as possible, if you are afraid of crossing over and die, just know that it's much worse being born than it is to die. Much worse. So you've already done the biggest thing. You have managed to be born here and you're actually here. So congratulations, that was the difficult part. Rest is easy. So when I came here and I was starting to land in my conscious mind here, then the description of this place was given to me, and I asked a lot of questions, like what is the mission statement here exactly? Because I had a lot of questions. First of all, I didn't understand linear time. I didn't understand basically being in a body and not fully being connected to it, that it would grow. I didn't understand people being awake and going to sleep. And I didn't understand the concept of death that they experienced here. Actually, early on, I said, but you do understand that your concept of death sounds a lot like your concept of going to sleep. So if you imagine being here, being alive, and you become more and more tired as you age, and then you finally die and lose consciousness or whatever, and you compare that to a normal day when you wake up full of energy and you become more and more tired until you finally go to sleep in the night and become unconscious, only to wake up again. And I kind of try to install that, everything goes round. There's no such thing as it starts here and it ends there and it's over. There's no such thing. It's no such concept. But that they believed here, and a lot of other weird stuff. So my first big question was, of course, what's the main mission here? Because I thought I would come down here to help. And if you just come to a place to help, you can expect to be greeted once you come here. Oh, great, you are here. Perfect, now we have some questions. Can you help us with this? But there was no such greeting committee awaiting me. And basically no one seemed to know who I was. And most of all, didn't seem to know who they were. So I was a bit confused about who asked for help, because they don't seem to be aware that they have been asking for help. And I was confused about where is my team? Where are my tools? How am I supposed to do this? And who am I supposed to help? Because it all looks pretty bad. And when I looked and I saw the first images of humans, so to speak, besides my parents, I saw these wobbling creature monsters, and I said, oh my God, I think I found the problem. And they said, no, Susan, these are not the monsters you came to defeat. That's actually the humans. And I said, that's no way. These are like monsters. Look at them. No. You only perceive this because they're disconnected from themselves. These are real souls, I promise you. And I have to look deeper, and I realized, oh my God, why do they look so weird? What's happened? Then they said they disconnected from themselves. And this was a weird concept for me. And I said, what do you mean? They disconnected from themselves. And I said, what does that imply then? What's the consequences of that? It means that they will not know who they are. And if you ask them, they will not remember anything of where they came from. And they will not know why they are here. And that turned out to be true. So I asked people, are you certain you don't remember anything? And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, where you come from? No. Do you remember God? And remembering God is basically like understanding it. Understanding the basics about yourself, the basics about life. the basics of life. That these are all experiences, and you travel and you go to places, and they couldn't remember that. Instead, they gave me this description of a man that was nailed to a cross, and it was torture and death and blood, and I really thought I came to hell if that was the description of God. I didn't understand anything of what they were giving me in replies. But as my mind is like it is, I could kind of translate what they were trying to say to understand their wounds and all of that. So I had to be briefed about that. They said, well, that's the state, and your mission is to help people reconnect back to themselves. And I said, well, how do I do that? And where is my team? And where is my tools? And how can I do this as quick as possible? And they said, it's not going to be perceived as going that quick. And you can't have your tools and you can't have your team until later in the process. Because at the end, you will kind of all meet up. And that is what is happening now. You are meeting up with friends you never had in your life, who are like-minded like you, who also have woken up. That's what's happening now at the end of the process. And you're going to be able to do so much more that you couldn't do when I grew up here. So that was the first shock, that I kind of felt a bit helpless on how this would be accomplished and exactly what it implied. And they said, just help them remember themselves, and this fog that is separating them to see their real selves will start to disperse. And once they get a glimpse of what they are, they will run the last mile themselves. And yeah, it made pretty much sense. So I tried to make myself comfortable here. I taught myself not to view too much of what humans are doing, because they were very lost. So I tried to watch nature only and keep myself to the universal laws and everything like that, so I wouldn't be lost. But it was very trying and testing to be here. In the beginning, I could try to evade their concept of going to sleep. So for me, it was really like waking up. I basically fell asleep standing, watching in a mirror, and just trying to, okay, don't lose yourself like these people have lost themselves. Don't lose yourself. I was so scared of forgetting. I had a memory from a previous life where I actually came to a place and I lost my memory. And that was not a pleasant experience. So I don't want to lose the concept of myself. I don't want to forget. I don't want to be lost. So I didn't become that lost. I still remembered. I still struggled in my path here because it was difficult to seeing so clearly that there were no bad guys here. It was only a lack of love. Basically, every child I spoke to missed their parents' love. And they didn't want to say that to their parents because they didn't want to disappoint them. That's how much we love our parents. So I watched everything get morphed and twisted. Children kind of know the truth. They don't believe in hierarchies or work or any of the weird things that we create later. They don't believe in any of that. They believe in love. And they do everything out of kindness. The only reason why hierarchies here are formed is because in the beginning when we are children, we want to please our parents that are our friends. Or we want to please our teacher that is also our friend. And we don't understand when it isn't given back to us, that we aren't treated in the same way we are treating them. And after a while, this fear comes, this disappointment, and we shut down. So, trying to stay awake and trying to give of all the knowledge that I still remember and have and really want to give to all of you to remember to become yourself is my greatest pleasure in life. And I will continue doing so. And some of the important things, apart from all of that I'm trying to teach, don't fear death, you can't die, is what's going to happen at this place at this time, why this is called the popcorn event. And the reason for this is that we're all waking up now. And when I say all, of course you're going to see half of the population maybe not so much waking up and the other half really striving to wake up. And what's the issue with this process? Well, it all started with the fall. Yes, there was a fall. I have described it in the video, the original relationship, because I want to describe it as humane as possible. I want to describe it with love. And the concept was given me to explain it like the love relationship between a man and a woman. And I think that's the most beautiful way actually to describe the fall. And I think it's the path of your feelings and your heart and true love that will lead you back the easiest to yourself and to your fellow human beings. So the more physical parts of the fall, as humans can understand it, happened outside this linear time. So don't try to trace it back in time, because it happened outside of time. But the fall in itself led to this linear time place and to this time and space dimension that you are in now, which includes duality. But these are not the real reality that you are watching. And that is something you really need to embrace. And it's difficult to embrace it. And part of the reason why it's difficult is because we are living here as the egos, so to speak. We are living here as the wound. And this wound has but one purpose: to try to save itself from truth. So you kind of identified yourself with the wound, and you're trying to keep the wound alive and not yourself alive. So you hurt yourself while remaining your lie and your concept. And if you try to remain a lie, it's very hard to see the truth, even though it's not hard to see the truth if you only but want it. So in the fall, some have referred to it as the fall of Atlantis. So let's imagine a place where something went wrong, or you did something that you are not really proud of. And instead of admitting it, just like it's described in the original relationship, instead of the woman admitting what happened, she decides to cover it, because she is afraid now that if she admits it, she will be rejected, both from God and the man, so to speak. She already perceives herself from separated, but we didn't have that idea of separation or any of these difficult concepts before the fall. So in this process, when the bulk of it happened, when we start to deny the truth, what happens when you start to deny the truth is that you suppress yourself. And at this concept of the fall, when it happened, and the details doesn't really matter, what happened was that you kind of put the lid on, so to speak. You suppressed yourself. And I liken this with that we suppressed ourselves, so we ended up in the Stone Age. What I mean by that is when you try to suppress the guilt and the shame and the horror of what you lost, everything. You didn't have to lose anything if you just admitted what happened and you can get back home. There's no one judging up there. But it was, I guess, you were afraid of yourself and what you've done. So you suppress it, and then you suppress the knowledge of who you are as well, the knowledge of home. You suppress everything. So you end up in the Stone Age. And there you have no knowledge, no memory. You don't remember who you are, and you don't have that much understanding at all. You have like a primitive mind now, because you basically erased knowledge from yourself. And the benefit of that Stone Age place you put yourself in is that you don't have to feel the pain. But it doesn't last long. You don't sit there a long time trying to make up fire of sticks and woods before you yearn to get back home. Having the concept that something was lost and you're not where you're supposed to be, and you have to continue forward. And as humanity started to move forward without truly remembering where forward was, because you suppressed it, right? But it's just a yearning, so you push forward. The more and more you push forward, the more and more knowledge comes back. And fast forward everything to where we are today. Technology and development and information is so rapid now. There's information everywhere. Just in the last 100 years, it's gone so incredibly fast, and it goes faster and faster the closer you get to the detonation site. You see, because reality, your true reality, is not linear time. You're not headed forward to a future. You're actually headed back home. That's why everything here is experienced so weird and maybe not making really sense. Why is it that I can predict something's going to happen and the outside is going to do this and this? Why can I predict that? And why does everyone basically share the same dream and the same concepts, and it's spread all over the world and it's the same mythology? Why is that? Because of this. Because everything you experienced here is just the result of the fall. So you're not headed to a future, you're headed back home. And the closer you get to this detonation site, the more knowledge you're going to have. And the more you're going to feel your own conscience. So one part of humanity, they're going to fear this. And one part of humanity, they're going to say, I don't care how much this hurts. I want to get back home. So the people who are spiritually waking up, as it said, and probably you guys watching this, I guess you one of them, right? You already decided to face your fears, no matter what. And guess what? These fears are heavily increasing. I already talked about this last year, so 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024, which is basically wraps up this whole process. And in 2020, your lives got a full stop. You couldn't continue in this wheel anymore that would last forever without anyone doing anything really concrete, everyone being in a stale map. But there you have started to think and to reflect. And 2021 showing your true colors. Very much exaggerated by this so-called needle. And it was a huge deal if you've taken it or not taken it. And it was really like everyone had to get out of their closet. If you had been like spiritual under the table, your family started saying, why aren't you taking this needle just like everyone else? And it was like, no, I don't want to. And it was like this great divider where you had to show your true colors. And this has only accelerated after that till extremes by now. No longer can you live in the lie. You have to choose the lie or the truth, basically. And this is because you are approaching the center. You know too much. If you are the one that have chosen to wake up now, you decided to confront your own lies. And to start with, this whole place is a lie. And just like the Stone Age protected you because no one knew anything. You were happy if you could make up fire, but it wasn't like psychological, philosophical concepts or anything. You were free. But when you have reached this far and are this close to home, you know too much. So those who have decided to wake up, they're gonna see the result of their own lie. So in the Stone Age, what is going on now on the outside, it didn't exist. Because there was no need to. There was no one remembering anything. But this that you're watching now on the outside, that story started at the very same time as any one of you could start remembering anything of significance. Because when that time started, it was essential for those who were not prepared to wake up to suppress it. So you created the outside as a place to basically help you suppress the truth so you could feel safe a bit longer. So as long as you don't want to wake up, you think this place is great. You see no problem what is you're watching at the news. Everything is great. All world's governments are great. But then you want to wake up. And then you say, oh, I want to be free. And suddenly this feels like a prison. And you rise from your chair and you try the door and you notice that it's locked. And you're like, who the hell locked this door? Who is suppressing me? Well, you are paying the guy locking the door. But when you really want to wake up, no one can stop you. But you're keeping this as a safety place, so you don't have to face the inner lies, the inner shame, the inner guilt. That lies far, far, far in here. And this is the interesting concept, because obviously I follow what everyone is speculating about concerning the outside, and if there is a dark force suppressing us. And I just want to say the truth here. It's psychology. It's all within you. Therefore, everyone forever said, get to know yourself. In yourself is the truth. It's not so that any secret group on the outside has the truth. You have the truth. But you would rather that you didn't, because now you have to take responsibility. So that's what's happening in the first stages. You want to wake up. You're starting to see that the outside world is an illusion. But you're not completely willing to let go of the illusion, so you start fighting it. Because if you fight it, at least you can get a comfortable life here without having to wake up. And I also try to say this to many people who are spiritual or alternative or whatever we are calling ourselves. If everything became fine on the outside, if the outside governments start to act nice, it wouldn't be a good thing. Because you would remain in the same state. You would remain with your refrigerator and your TV. Why would you bother to wake up? The outside is pushing you to leave this lie by making it merely impossible for you to stay. And this process only happens for those who decided to wake up. Because you've decided to pull away all that separates you from being you. And it is this separation within you that is keeping you from home. So now, when we all approach the center of everything, where it all started and ended, so to speak, the half of the population that decided to wake up will experience a lot of challenges and fears and concepts that they will have to let go of. And in that process, it will be difficult, because you have to reinvent your relationships, you have to reinvent your understanding of everything that you watch around you. You have to starve the ego. You have to let go of the concept of a me. Because that is how this place is prolonged. That is how this place survives. The ego don't care if you call yourself a king or a victim, as long as you call yourself something. As long as you can identify as something. My God, even if you are the best monk in the world who can discipline your thoughts, and you see yourself as the best person in the world disciplining your thoughts, you're just as stuck here as someone calling themselves a king. The ego lives by its separate definition from everyone else. That is why humbleness and all of these unselfish concepts is the key to true waking up, to true you. I'm not going to say spirituality, because this is life. Life is just that. Look out in the nature. There is no hierarchy. There's no separation. It's the same in your body. There is not one organ in your body deciding over anyone else. Everyone is needed. So, because we separated from the very concept of harmony, and we couldn't define ourselves as that anymore, we got lost. And you can't have truth as long as you're holding on to separation. So the very concept of waking up is to unlearn everything you lived by so far, and to truly embrace what you really are. And I'm going to talk about that today. So we have the fall that happened, that we're all here trying to repair and make whole again, described in the original relationship. And the process we are in is not the process of going into the future, but it's going back to yourself, going back home, going back to where the fall happened. And half of you will embrace that. You will have more and more knowledge, and you can use that knowledge to wake up and face your fears. And the other part doesn't want to wake up. They will use the knowledge, like technology that you're seeing, to suppress feelings, emotions, like they do with medicine or any other shit now they will produce that would basically make it so that you can never feel bad again. You can never have bad negative emotions. We can eradicate that, just so they don't have to feel this once they approach the center. So everyone kind of knows where they're going, kind of knows we're going here, and we're dealing with it in two different ways. And the reason why it's also so black and white now is because you're supposed to make a choice. It's not gray anymore. I grew up in the 80s. There was no defined dark force and light force. It was pretty much a blend, but now it's not. And it's supposed to be an easy way of defining if you're going to wake up or if you're going to suppress yourself. And with this background, let's dive into the topic of how to become immortal. And I want to start by saying what immortal is not and what kind of striving does not lead to immortality. And there are two reasons why I'm actually addressing this topic today. One is because all of you who decided to wake up, you are heading towards that state. So therefore, I want to give a realistic explanation of what you can expect becoming immortal and what steps leads there and what this path really implies. Second reason why I'm bringing this topic up is because of the myths about immortality, because of all the misunderstandings about immortality. And let's dispel all these falsehoods today. The first wrong reason for pursuing immortality, which many men have been guilty of, is to try to evade death. People want to be immortal, so they don't have to die. Right? And they gotten it all wrong. Because people who are afraid of dying are not afraid of death. You can't be afraid of death because death does not exist. And deep inside, everyone knows that. What you are truly afraid of by crossing over is to face yourself. If you are afraid of death, you are afraid of facing yourself. So those people who are so scared of crossing over that they rather invent some weird mechanism to keep them alive here forever are people who are not afraid of death but afraid of life. The concept of death does only exist in your own mind, not in reality. And let me explain this to you very easily. Here, in this duality, use a small part of your conscious mind. A small, small part. You can only see what you perceive in a small part. You can't see the rest. That is why every night when you go to sleep, all these other areas are lit up. And you are here, and here, and here. And then when you wake up, you may have a diffuse memory of a dream, but you can't really grasp it fully because you're back here. So you can't access these areas again. So you think it was only a fantasy. Not understanding that this, which parts of you that are conscious, decides your whole reality and concept of reality. If you were completely awake, not only would you understand all of your body and everything, you would not experience the concept of going to bed, like going to sleep. You would not go dreaming and being unconscious. You would be fully conscious traveling. Just like I was when I was a kid. Fully conscious traveling. And you would not experience death. Because you will be fully conscious once you come here. Like I remember coming here. And you're fully conscious once you walk away. No problem. And this you can have. So the only reason why you would experience death and dying is if you're not conscious about this. So you don't understand that once you leave your safe place here where you're conscious, and once you enter outside of it, you think you simply do not exist anymore. But of course you exist. It's only the part of you that is here that cannot see these other parts. So when I see someone crossing over, I don't think I've lost that person. I don't think that person is dead. The only thing I see is that they are letting go of that small concept of themselves, and I have no problem reconnecting with their higher selves. I would even go so far as to say that because we are down here and we are focusing on the physical bodies and the concepts that we believe we are here, we are missing out of what more we can see and perceive of a person. And to make another short example to understand that we're not these bodies, I talked with a friend about the concept of how can you explain to someone that you're not just a body. Imagine that you're buying a pair of shoes. Now, if you would believe that compare these shoes to the body, the shoes without anyone walking in them would not exist. You don't buy the shoes for the sake of the shoes. You buy them for those who are using them to walk. The person who is walking in them is the real important part to focus on here, not the shoes in themselves. But for some reason we forget the person who are walking in the shoes, and we think it is the shoes. The shoes are walking themselves, basically. So it's not the shoes, it's the person that is walking them. And the person who is walking them becomes almost like an invisible concept. But that is what we are. We are not these bodies. We are the one using the bodies. And that's a whole other story. So, those who chase immortality because they are afraid of dying don't know what they're talking about. They are afraid of life, and they do not want to touch life. They want to stay in the confinement of their own safe lie, so they don't have to face themselves. And people rather suffer and go through horrible things than having to face their conscience. So that is one of the wrong reasons why you would pursue immortality. So I hope I managed to give a basic explanation of why you would invent a concept such as death. Only because you're not fully conscious or conscious enough so that you can see everything, so you can see how the parts fit together. So there's a disruption. Imagine if you have a house with 3 conjunction rooms. My English. Just imagine that you're passing through 3 rooms. And the difference, if you have a fully functional lamp in every room, so everything is lit up, so you know this is all your house. You just walk through all these rooms and they're lit up. And compare this to, I don't know, if the middle room lamp breaks and is completely pitch dark. So you walk in there and you have no idea where you are and it's all pitch black. The room is still there, but you can't see it and perceive it. So you will imagine anything, but that imagination is not real. So let's start from that concept and relax a bit about the concepts of death and dying. And remember how it is to go to sleep every night. You have full confidence that you're going to wake up and not disappear just because you are temporarily unconscious when you go to sleep. And so even now when I explain that those who are afraid of crossing over are afraid to face themselves, I of course do not mean to suggest, so therefore be brave and cross over. I do not suggest to destroy this vehicle so that you can escape this prison. Of course, that is not the case. And have you figured out why that isn't the case? Well, that is because there is a reason why you are in this state. You are here because you want to suppress the truth, remember? So if you're here to suppress the truth, and all of this is meant to protect you from the truth, if you would just destroy your body and escape from here, it would teach you nothing. And you would get back here until you could heal this concept of the relationship to life. So you have to wake up while being in this state. That's the whole purpose. No one can escape that. And for you who have seen the original relationship, and for you, those of you who haven't, I recommend you do. You see that the woman, after the fall, and trying to cover up the truth, consistently lies to the man that What are you talking about? Nothing has happened. It was always like this. There is only you and I here. And you come to me for the sake of me. There is no God. There is no immortal state. It's only me. Come to me and my body. Come to this physical realm. That's the only thing that exists. Da, yada, yada, yada. And it's horrible to tell these lies. And it hurts you to tell these lies. But you are too afraid to tell the truth. And just like that, the striving for immortality can be like what the woman in the story is striving for. I will remain here. I will remain in this kingdom that I created. And I will cover the truth forever. And I will keep this fake version of me alive forever by becoming immortal. So the concept of immortal just becomes a way to stay in this state, not having to face the truth. And that is not what I am referring to when I speak about reaching immortality and how to become immortal for real. And I want to expand some more of the concept of dying and death so we can fully understand what immortality is. I have a lot of memories of so-called death because I remember my past lives, and many of those you can remember losing people, and some of the most strong feelings are around losing people or losing your life yourself. And what I learned in all of this, I especially learned on the battlefield. One of my strongest memories was right before the dawn of a battle. It was supposed to be a battle in the sunrise, and I've led my men through many fights. And I wanted to make something different. I really want to connect with everyone in my group the night before, and I couldn't. I tried to reach eye contact with them, but their eyes were just staring out in the distance. Like everyone was sitting around the same fire, so to speak, but they were not together. They were all in a separate state of their mind. And I realized that it was because everyone could see what everyone was thinking. Everyone's thinking, am I going to die tomorrow? And the idea of thinking of that kind of separates you from life, separates you from everything, because the idea of death is the idea of separation. So the reason, if you may be seen in movies, that the great battle leaders, they are trying to rally up their men before a battle. They try to boost the moral before a battle. You've seen that, right? Remember why we're doing this. And remember you will live forever and all of this. They are trying to boost that morality to try to keep the group intact. To try to not make them think about death and separation. Because that would greatly decrease the efficiency of the attack, so to speak, if everyone is shattered and thinking about themselves and not seeing the teammates or anything. So you want to keep everyone alive and focused and together, and not let them drift to fear, so their minds wander in separation land. So I also try to embrace that in these lives. I learned the concept of how it worked, that people really feared death. And I tried to understand what it was that they really feared. And I started to see the connection, that it was separation. For the same reason as even if you saw an enemy wounded on the battlefield, and you saw that that guy is doing his last breaths, you kind of wanted to keep them company. You didn't want them to go through that crossing over alone, because it was already separatedness. And many people, and the worst noises I ever remember hearing was people screaming in agony before they died. And I realized it wasn't that they screamed because of pain, but they screamed because of fear of dying. And of course, many lives later, I understood that it was all the same things I learned about life. And separation, fear, and pain are the same energy field. So if you are ever in pain, in physical pain, if you imagine how close you feel to your fellow human beings, you're going to make the comparison. You're going to realize that every time you're in physical pain, you're going to feel a bit more separated from everyone else. And you're also going to feel a bit more afraid than you did before you had pain. Because all these stick together. And if you have fear, you're actually going to feel some pain and some separation. And this is proven. If you imagine yourself going alone in a dark forest, and you feel fear, and there's some pain associated with it, and then your friend comes and joins you, and immediately you feel less pain, you feel less afraid. Because you feel a certain greater togetherness. Because the separation and fear and pain goes hand in hand. If you break the chain of one of these, you break the chain on all of them. You cannot feel physical pain if you feel perfect togetherness. I was going to say try it, but this is a very difficult thing to try. People have done this in history though. They have defeated the concept of physical pain, could even be tortured, and eventually you can even try to destroy their body and it won't work because they defeated that energy field completely. They do not believe in separation at all anymore. So that's really like the highest state you can reach. But in the beginning, if you want to try it out small, if you just like hurt yourself mildly, like you bump in your foot into the wall or something, and you feel an inch of pain, send acceptance to that place. Acceptance and say, I've never been separated. I don't attack. I don't judge. Just remove everything that is separation and attack, and you're going to feel how this pain diminishes quickly. So it works in all these instances. So this concept kind of dawned on me throughout all these lives, that how this all stuck together. So when I hear the noise of someone crying out, not out of pain that you would assume, because physical pain actually diminished from psychological pain, and it was the real pain of hearing someone fearing death, fearing separation. And you struggle by wanting to comfort them or just wanting to be separated to ever hearing them, like, because it was really like the heart of all fears that you were listening to. Weird. So yeah, I had my meetings with the concept of dying and leaving this place so many times that I literally do not care anymore. Even if I didn't know everything I came to know then, I think I would be numb. I would certainly know that I cannot die. The only thing that happens when you leave the body is a schnoop. Like this little silver thread is saying schnoop, and you let go. So I really couldn't care. I couldn't care. It's much, much weirder being born to this place. That's what I'm trying to say. So even when your loved ones cross over, you don't lose them. They are still there. Only when they are traveling to the other parts of the universal consciousness here, you may not perceive them because you only perceive this small part. But that doesn't mean they're not there, just like it doesn't mean that the room is not there only because your lamp is broken. So when we are diving deeper to what this concept of death is, we have to face our fears. And another way of explaining this, this core lie that makes us prefer to stay here as mortals rather than waking up, just because we don't want to face up with this great shame. And yeah, some of you might probably want to ask the question now, okay, what in the name is it that we can't confess that we have done? I don't get it. Well, just try to wrap your head around this. You can probably feel some feelings if you watch the original relationship. But if nothing else, just imagine that you managed to do something that would greatly disappoint everyone that you know. Would you admit to what you've done? Or would you hope that you did not have to admit it? You could pretend that nothing ever happened and just hope that no one figures out and continue life the best way you can. Only very, very bad things has become the result of what you've done. And people are now really suffering because of what you have done. And it's obvious that they are suffering because of what you've done. And it kind of becomes worse and worse the longer you wait to say anything. So for every day that passes that you contemplating if you should tell, you see how the pain is increasing. And now you can't even imagine the consequences of admitting to what you've done. That everyone will for sure hate you forever, or try to destroy you, or whatever you are imagining. So you come up with another plan. Let's make the best out of this. I will try to ease their suffering. It's only one problem with this. No matter how much you try to ease their suffering, the suffering is always increasing. And this whole concept is manifested actually in the first steps of waking up. Now, has anyone said that waking up is tough? I said it's easy because it's not complex, but it's tough. It's really tough. You see, in the first stages of waking up, it often starts like this. You have a change of concept of what humans are. You do not believe anymore that humans are intrinsically evil. You do not believe that humans are egoistical and selfish and evil. You actually believe that humans at their core are good, unselfish. Now, the reason why you are changing your view about this, the reason why you feel like this, is because you are yourself waking up. You are starting to forgive yourself. There are different stages that you go through when something has happened. At the first, it's denial. So when the fall happened and you deny and you just cover your ass. And then you can go through really destructive behavior. Like the woman in the story, in the original relationship. She basically becomes the devil herself. She lies so hard. So she really makes every effort she can for man to worship her body and everything she does. And he has to live at her mercy of accepting him based on how much he can gratify her physical needs. Like, be the God manifested here that I managed to sever my connection with. Be a great leader for me. Have all the resources that I need. Give me love and comfort. Have all the answers and all of that. So you live these lives as well. You become a real evil tyrant in one of these lives. And that is good. Because when you become a real evil tyrant in a life, you realize something. There is no evil. It's only you. When you stand there at top of the universe and you realize you are the terror of the universe that everyone fears, you realize there is nothing else that you could possibly fear apart from yourself and your own evil. Congrats. After that, things start taking a good turn. You stop believing in external evil, and you know it's all about what we choose to do or not to do. So then you start to forgive and you start to accept basically what's happening in small steps. So there follow these lives when you become this unselfish helper. And you live these lives as a teacher, as a health worker, social health worker, all these kind of lifetimes. Back in the days, you could be like a helping monk or whatever. You live lives with great so-called sacrifices, as it's called, because you help and you help and you help, often with long working hours, straining yourself mentally, emotionally, even physically, with very little payment in return. And you glance at those people who have happy lives, luxury lives, who just chose selfish life with a career and money and fun and luxury and vacations and all of that you are now neglecting for just helping people. And you have some very, very good experience in these lives when you feel the conviction that really everyone can learn. As a teacher, you know that everyone can be helped. And you are willing to sacrifice yourself to help other people. You're willing to do all that. But that is only the first stage in waking up. So you might feel that that's pretty rough. You're giving up on the luxury and easy life that you could have had for that kind of life. And it is rough because of this reason. So far, you've only decided to choose a better way. You're choosing to follow an ideal, a theoretical ideal, but you haven't transformed yet. So you're still suffering, but you are insisting on this path now. That's the first step. The problem, however, is that you still haven't woken up. The problem in this phase is that you still have ego. You are still working from the separate part that was created as a cause of the fall. And this separate part, so popularly called the ego, is death and not life. And that's a big problem that I will go into. The ego, the separate part of you, does not exist. That's another huge problem. And it wants food. And food for the ego is a definition. It wants an identification. The ego does not care what you do or become down here. It does not care as long as it has a definition, as long as it has a me. It doesn't care if you call yourself a king. If you do, that's really great. It's better that you call yourself a king than a victim. But a victim and a martyr is equally good. But best is the king. Because as a king, you will enjoy the pleasures of this place so much that it's much longer path for you to even want to wake up. Why would I want to wake up? It's great down here. If you are a victim or a martyr, you might not like this place, but you will still be stuck in this place. And a spiritual teacher might say it's because you lack love. But I'm a victim, I'm a martyr. You lack love. Why am I lacking love? I'm a victim. It's because you claim that identity and you define yourself as that identity, and that means food for the ego. So the ego doesn't care. As long as you identify with something, it's happy, you will remain here. So it's tough. And you can't go to the outside asking to be understood in this process, because they will not understand. It will only be you and your own conscience. And before I continue with this, I want to say something more about this wound and this separation and death, because this is all connected. Another great example of what you're trying to hide and what you're really fearing is imagining that someone is approaching you with a knife. What is it that you think? You feel fear. And why do you feel fear? You believe you feel fear because this attacker will stick this knife into your body and you will die. But that is not what you fear. Your greatest desire then would be to be a super fighter, like the world's best martial artist. Why? Well, of course. Why? What do you mean why? Because then I can evade that knife. I can defend myself against any opponent. I'm perfectly safe. What you really mean is that your lie is perfectly safe. Maybe you will not understand what I'm talking about yet, but I believe if you are thinking about what I just said, sometimes, maybe meditate on it, it would start to dawn on you. What you are afraid of by that knife ending up in your body and you dropping down in front of that other person's feet is that your lie is being exposed. The thing that you are most ashamed of, out of everything, is that you are separated from your fellow human beings. That is your greatest shame. The ego is holding you based on that shame, that you're separated, and therefore you are guilty. Just because you are separated, you are guilty. You're guilty because you can die, and you just proven that you can die. That means that you are separated, it means you are guilty. We are not afraid of being dead like that. We are ashamed of it. That is why the opposite of being a really cool fighter and hero who can deflect that knife and survive is cool. It's the opposite of feeling shame. When you think about it, it makes no sense, right? But it makes sense if you understand the wound. So better than being knifed down, better than being a real great fighter, is that if someone comes at you with a knife and you stand there calmly and the knife can't penetrate your body. It can't. Then you smile calmly and you feel absolute peace and you feel absolute love because there are no lies anymore. You're not lying anymore. That can happen. Welcome to the immortal state. Weird, isn't it? The real warrior, and all of you are warriors, is on the inside. A true warrior isn't fighting because he's trying to protect himself. A real warrior is not even the unselfish warrior who is fighting to protect other people. Though that is the first stage of waking up as a warrior. When you start sacrificing your life to save other people, that's the first stage. But the final stage is when you are equally ready to use that sword on yourself as unto other people. And there is no difference between you and the other people. So you're always using the sword on yourself. And the sword, of course, is not a physical sword. I'm not talking of committing suicide on yourself. The sword is a representation of truth. As it's shown in, for example, tarot cards. You have the air suit represented by swords. And in the tales of the knight protecting the maid, in all these classical stories, that is a symbolism of your masculine and feminine part, your conscious and your unconscious part, or rather, God as the main concept of everything. And the second principle is the female, reflecting everything that is. And the third principle is the conscious you, the conscious man, is called life. And that's the whole purpose of life. In the third concept, you're supposed to see reality as it is, depicting of a pure woman, an innocent woman. She is innocent, not because of physical reasons she's innocent. She's innocent because she's perfectly reflecting God. There is no separation. She's perfectly reflecting God, which means she's pure. That's what the concept means. Like your subconscious is supposed to reflect life as it is, without any lies. So right now you're all fallen women. All of you. Men and women alike are fallen women. But when you have gone rid of all the lies, you are pure. You are that perfect maid. And then, in respect and love to yourself and your fellow human beings, your conscious you is following and reflecting and personalizing this. You fully become yourself as you were meant to be. So when the knight is defending the maid, it just means that you are prepared to stand for truth and never, ever corrupt yourself. Never allowing yourself to fall. Never allowing yourself to be less than what you are. Never having to lie about what you are and protect a lie because you are afraid. You are not afraid anymore. You live for truth. So that is what is happening. Then this warrior is internalized. you will stand for truth. And this you can do. This any one of you can do, and it's the same challenge for everyone. You don't have to be 2 meters tall and be a physical fighter warrior. All of that is requisita. All of that is symbolism. Even I, because I know I talk a lot about former warrior lives, it's symbolism for what you then become to internalize when you learn about truth. So, yes, we're going deep. I know we're going deep. So, we are here describing the steps of how to become immortal for real, without all the lies about the concept and misunderstandings about the concept, but the path of how to become immortal and how it really works. And you see, yes, it's pretty much the spiritual path. There is no shortcuts to it, because the state of immortality is also a state of being. You can't, in a sense, be here if you are immortal. You live in the state of immortality. And even the very rare people who have demonstrated immortality on this plane, and those people have existed for good reasons, to prove this very concept. But even as they appeared here, even as fire couldn't take them, they just demonstrated this concept with love. But their hearts and minds were not here. They did not believe in money or death or the requisita here. They were just here to show that, while their hearts and their minds were home, where that state is natural. So, humanity will go through many confusing moments when they first want to be this super fighter, this hero who can attack any bad guys and defend themselves from any attack. That's the first stage. And my God, I don't want to leave that state. That's perfect. Let me stay here as Superman forever, kicking ass. Being a hero, being someone here. That's only the first stage. And then they get really confused and what? Am I not supposed to defend myself? What if I die here? And you become like the sacrificing martyr, and a higher state of understanding is reached when you simply prove the point that it's not about the body. It's about the idea. It's about standing true to the idea, even with the risk of losing the form. And then, of course, when the test is all passed, you can't even lose the form. So it's not about someone up there wanting you to suffer. And it's not about, why couldn't I be given an immortal body to start with? Why does this body have to be sick? It's not about that. It's about you learning, understanding life. Once you understood it, it's fine again. But it's because how we hurt ourselves and what we believed we couldn't do. I did something wrong. I'm ashamed. I've destroyed life for everyone. Just believing that you can destroy life for everyone. It's all of that. It's psychology. That's why we're here. So, when we are experiencing this, we're going to find ourselves understanding immortality in 2 different ways. We are not trying to seek now immortality because we are afraid of dying. We are not trying to seek immortality because we want to be cool, but we seek immortality because we want to be true to ourselves and true to our fellow beings. And simply put, this state of being that we live in here is not truth. So immortality becomes just a way of being true. And everyone pursuing spirituality in one way or another realizes that all these wonderful concepts that gives comfort to your soul are immortal in their nature. Every spiritual saying that is true has a ring of immortality to it. Therefore, it gives you peace. It is something that you can stand by and stand for that doesn't separate. So every spiritual sentence that is a true spiritual sentence doesn't separate and last forever. So try that with your favorite sentences and you're gonna find out that I'm right. And now, let me explain something about the kind of food that the ego wants, and that this process of reaching immortality is to starve the ego. Now, every one of us can probably agree that the soul does not crave food. The ego, however, does. And I'm not just talking about physical food, I'm talking about everything that feeds the ego, and that is to continue the identification. That humans seek drama. And the more personal drama you need, the more you need to feed the ego. Another way of saying it is that you have fear and you have wounds, and you're trying to soothe these wounds. And you do that by getting this energy and this drama. But it all kind of boils down to that the ego wants to remain alive, even if the ego is not alive. So that's an impossibility in itself. Everything the ego does is pretty much impossible. But if you remove humanity from this planet, and if you picture only nature, you kind of see what I mean. It's only peace and harmony. So the horror of this place is that you have to kill in order to live. And this goes even if you are a vegetarian, you have to consume something that is alive in order for you to live. And it becomes even more horrific, even if this is not supposed to be a horror story I am telling, but I have to give you some concepts about your myths that you have down here and how humanity points the blame to someone else, but the real horror comes from within. You really need to kill in order to live here. And that's an important concept. And the horror of it is, if you imagine it like a lion destroys an antelope, and it doesn't care if that animal had kids, if it had dreams, love. It doesn't care about the soul. It doesn't care about the experiences or the right for someone to live and have experiences and this life overall. It doesn't care. It just wants to get rid of the soul. It doesn't care about it. It cares about the vehicle that it consumes. It consumes the flesh. And just this is bizarre. Why would the lion consume the flesh? Life should need life. Why would it consume the vehicle? Why would you have to ignore life in order to consume the vehicle? It makes no sense. And the same goes for humans. If they eat flesh, or even if they eat only vegetables, they can't live on dirt and rocks. They will kill in order to consume, to continue living, as it's called. And everything you consume is already dead when you consume it. And those who try to be really spiritual, they try to eat only raw food, because that is as close as they can get to kind of consume something that is almost alive, to try to consume the life essence instead of just the flesh, so to speak. And when you think about it, and especially if someone would kill a human just to have a bit of flesh, so it just goes like gasoline into a vehicle so it can continue, it's kind of disgusting and perverse. It's actually really horrific that you would kill a human being. When you think about how complex a life is, when you think about everyone who will mourn that person's death, and just to have a meal, it makes literally no sense. How can we at the same time be a soul who thinks so much of our own lives, my dreams, my aspirations, what will I work with, what will I accomplish here, what is my life mission, who will I love? I might have a family. It's everything I can do here. And then, boom, someone decides that you are a meal, a snack. Makes no sense. How can we at the same time embrace the soul, while at the same time being that same monster who needs to consume the vehicle and completely ignore the life form that was in it? Because the ego concept in itself, the separated idea, is death. The concept of the separated self is like this. I'm my own being, and no one around me has anything to do with me. and they will fully ignore me. I will die alone, I will live alone, I will be completely ignored unless I have something that they want. And then I go imagining what it is that they could possibly want and desire, and I try to be that which they desire. I try to be someone who can give them what they want so that I have a worth. And the worst thing is, I might do the same to them. I might only choose them in my life because I want something from them. And they may know that this bond here is conditional because of what they can give me. And all of this is so fundamentally against what nature and life is all about. How your body is, how everything here is in harmony, how everything on the outside is in harmony. But if you believe in this separated consciousness, then nothing matters, does it? Then I might crave you for food or whatever. But I never touch life. And I demonstrate this by dying in every life I have here. Because I fail to reach life in every lifetime. I only touch death. So every time I consume something that is dead. And every time I relate to someone here, I relate to my own needs, but not to life. So the bizarre thing that happens in this process, and when all this is trying to sink in, is what you're going to experience in your relationships. So when you have a relationship and one partner is starting to wake up, that is going to cause a lot of disruptions, because the partner who is waking up is starting to feel harmony within themselves. So what is happening then is that he doesn't need to feed from his partner. That is, he don't need his partner the way he needed his partner before. And the partner is going to freak out. You don't love me anymore. Because that is how bizarrely it's become. Love is the very act of someone needing you. Like needing food. That is love. And if you don't need me with your very life, you don't love me. I'm ignored. I'm not needed anymore. You must need me. No, I don't need you. I love you. No, you must need me. But you're free. I don't want to be free. I want to be owned by you. I want to be owned by you, and I want to know that you die unless you can't own me. So of course, yeah, that's going to cause some problems in the relationship. I also done this comparison when at the end of things, all bonds break, all former relationships we formed break. It's like if you have two boats and they're connected with a very bad knot. And that's most of the relationships down here. You are in the same house, maybe you are together, but you're not that much together. You're not that close. You live conditionally, and therefore you are afraid. So you have to make sure that the other person isn't changing too much, so that you can remain this narrative you have amongst each other. And if that narrative is challenged, you're going to lose one another. But guess what? That narrative will be changed, because some of you will wake up. And once you do, this knot will have to be severed. So because next time you see each other, it can be woven much tighter and actually be a real bond, a real connection. And you will meet your way more genuine you. And because you meet the more genuine you, your relationship is safe. So that's a horror story, that you don't need food from me, because the ego is a junkie. The ego craves this death. So in the beginning stages, when you let go of the ego, you're going to freak out. Because there is so much we want here, because we are junkies to the food of this place. So you're going to see it in relationships. And even if you attempt to be spiritual, you're maybe going to find in your relationships that you die a little bit when your partner is not craving you in that way. You're kind of happy when they are desperate for you. And you're not supposed to be happy by your partner being desperate about you. But you only feel that as long as you are desperate about the food from this place. If that's a comfort, you will get over it. So We have this addiction in many ways. We always want to include a me. Now you're going to start to learn to be relating to other people without an agenda. You have to be able to reach out to people without an agenda, without any thought of me. And that can be weird and scary in the beginning. So the first stages of waking up, becoming immortal, the unselfish worker who can still keep his ego by defining himself as the greatest worker or a victim, or I'm sacrificing myself for everyone else, still feeding the ego, but beginning to embrace this concept, beginning to accept that humanity is not evil. I'm not in that complete denial. I am not an evil tyrant anymore, at least I'm trying. But then to let go and see your real wound, that's the final challenge, and we're facing that now. Hence this video. So just know that you will face these challenges, and it is a weird path, because at the same time as you are striving forward to do your best, to work with your fears, to be this unselfish human being, to not accept any more selfish ideas. And every time you feel negative thoughts, or you become angry at other people, you start looking at this wound and why you're feeling this way, and you start to understand it, and you start to heal it. But as you are doing this process, you are hurting yourself in this process because you haven't transformed yet. You are literally starving yourself in this process, denying you things that you would automatically really want. So therefore, in the beginning, it's difficult. In the beginning, you will probably feel that you're doing a lot of sacrifices, while at the same time not being able to feel sorry for yourself, refusing to call yourself a victim, refusing to call it a sacrifice even, and trying to find deep in yourself that you want this, that you really have this love, that it's real, that it's real, that it's real. So it can be a very confusing process. It might be even a process when you start to feel that you don't know what the heck you are doing. And the reason why you sometimes can wake up and think, what the heck am I doing? What is this life? Am I even on the right track? I'm completely fooling myself. Is because you are standing in the middle. One part of you is pushing forward, not having reached it yet, because another part of you, who is still ego, is trying to hold you back. It might be the sensation of you trying to lift a plane, and a part of you is trying to push the plane to lift it, and fully put the gas on and lift the plane, and another part of you is trying to keep it down. It can be a bumpy ride for the whole experience, and that's what you're going through. So it's not until the bond here with ego is completely severed and in control that you might feel completely clear about the path ahead. So be prepared for that. So when we go through this, we want to reach a state when it feels more and more obvious why we're doing, and we want to do it because this is the right thing to do, and this is what we want to do. So in many of my videos, probably many of my Swedish videos, I always address that whatever you have to get out of your system, get it out of your system, because you can't read yourself to what is true for you. You have to experience it. And it's only through a lot of experiences that you come to the sense of what you really want to do. So have these experiences for yourself. No one is judging you. My God, every one of us has done all crazy shit you can possibly think of, because we have to have the experience. There is absolutely no other way. I mean, there has been no such being just came to a place and did everything perfect. It's not the purpose of it. It's not the purpose to just give me the manual so I can do everything perfect and I don't have to think for myself. That's not the way to become conscious. Just get it out of your system and learn. Be aware, be awake, be conscious. Do yourself proud and understand that doesn't matter what happened in your past. It matters what you can do now. And remember, ego will use the past against you. The ego will say, oh, look, this many years have passed and you've been a complete idiot and you've done this and this. Do you think you have any chance now? Because the ego is always trying to pull you into that ghost house of a nightmare and talk so much shit, literally, so you cannot feel the now. But all that exists is this now. Doesn't matter if you are 8 or 80. It doesn't matter what you've done. The ego will use that time, so to speak, against you, that history against you. It will kidnap the narrative and say that your whole life you've been a shitty person, whatever. It will do and say whatever so that you will not pull the plug, so to speak, on it. Because once you do, you're out of time. So guess what? That time that you're supposed to do so many horrible things doesn't exist anymore. So just be aware. Don't get fooled or pulled in by stupid thoughts. You make no real judgments, no real decisions when you are negative and down. Only when you're happy you seem to know the truth, right? Have you ever really had a really great idea when you feel bad? Apart from perhaps I don't want to feel bad anymore, which is a great idea. But can't see the truth when we are in a negative state. Because then we are at a negative state. It means we already believe in that state. So whenever you feel negative or scared or you're really down under, you can't conceive and believe that there is a happy place. You can only conceive of reality as it is in this energy field. So continue to persist and do not stay negative. And the best way to reach out from a negative state is to do the opposite of ego. Remember that ego is always separation, fear, and guilt and attack. So stop doing that and you stop being in that state of being. Feel gratefulness. I always say these things because they really, really help. Say, I never been separated. I am innocent. I don't judge. I don't attack. Acceptance and love and understanding. I'm innocent. I never been separated. I don't attack and I do not judge. Acceptance, understanding, and love. Because the ego wants you to feel separated so it can blame you. So if you take away separation, and if you take away guilt, and if you stop attacking, because we do that when we are afraid, you'll be fine. And therefore I also always love this idea when one of the best way to pull down all these lies and these fears is to go to a group of people without defending yourself, being social without defending yourself. Just prepare yourself to meet people without defending yourself. Because we do defend ourselves amongst other people because of these inherent lies that we're carrying around. And we do this by the way we post ourselves or the dresses we wear or I don't know, the makeup, mostly the attitude. Or maybe you have prepared sentences you're going to say. If someone says something to you, you're going to reply like that. Maybe we prepare that. It's like we come prepared. We come to fight. Very seldom we go into a group of people completely fine. We do that maybe with our best friends, but not with random strangers. So if you can do this, I'm not going to defend myself. It poses that you are no threat to anyone and you're not going to lie and you have no lies you need to defend. And this goes completely against those who says you have to protect yourself, there are bad energies there, you have to put a lot of safety things around you or you will be attacked. No, you will only be attacked if you attack, sorry. Not even the Lord of Demons himself could attack you unless you attack first. That's a universal principle. If you want to be really safe, you do not defend yourself at all. That's the irony of it. And the very fun thing about that is that it's manifested in your world here. Because if you go out with weapons, then that might instigate violence in itself. People may feel threatened about that and come at you with weapons themselves. And that can lead to you getting hurt or dead. And if you try to say, okay, I should not come with the big weapons, but maybe a small weapon, maybe I carry a knife, you can almost guarantee you're going to attract some kind of trouble and danger. And that is not because of the physical weapon you are carrying now. It's because of your mindset. So there is no such thing as being a little safe. Because that little safe that you're trying to carry on in life just means that you are still attacking and defending. You're still in that loop. If you want to be real safe, you stop with the attacks, period. Great secret. And that's what's going to take you from this plane to the immortal planes. And when you start living in this unselfish state of being, and if people say that I can't be unselfish because then I'm going to be used by others, you can't be used by others if you are unselfish. That's a contradiction. You understand why now? Because if you can be used by others, meaning that they have taken something from me now, way too much, and I need to get something back from them, it means that you're still in that first separated state when you feel that you will not be worth anything unless you matters to other people, so you have to give them something that they want, and then they might include you and give you something back. You're still in that mindset, but you're not really in the unselfish state. Now you are just helping people in hope that they will like you if you're helping them. And then we are actually right back at the wound. Many people choose to be so-called unselfish helpers to compensate what happened in the fall. So if I'm not gonna admit to the wrongs that I've done, I haven't done wrong because no one is really judging me, but I'm panicking about this. If I'm not gonna admit it to myself what I've done, I might do it like this. Okay, I did something horrible. It causes a lot of bad consequences for other people. But if I make up for these bad consequences, if I help them really much so that their lives are fine, they're not going to ask who sabotaged everything, because now everything is fine, so there's nothing to admit to anymore. No problem, no harm has ever been done. You're still acting out from the fall. You're still in the separated state. And therefore you experienced also that my unselfishness has led to me being used by others. But while in a truly unselfish state, you can't be used by other people. Because when you are truly starting to act out of unselfishness, you kind of can see where other people's are. You can see their fears. You can see their addictions and their needs. And you can't force them to love. You know that you can't force them to understand. So your only job then as a helper and teacher is to try to help them to get into balance. And you're not going to help them getting into balance by being in imbalance yourself. You're not going to help them into balance by just helping them with their problems in their lives. That's not how they're going to be helped. You're going to be able to say things and do things and learn by example, by the way how your life is. But you're not going to be used by them. That will be impossible. Because you could clearly see that, helping them with that and that is not going to solve these issues. You're not going to go about it like that. You're going to be able to say, no, sorry, can't do this. Have you ever thought about? You're going to see the actual solution to the real problem. And you're going to help them there. So be prepared as these steps are coming closer and closer to the center, that you have to make up with the ego. You have to let go of it. You have to starve it by ignoring your need, your personal need. And that doesn't mean physical sense that I will ignore my needs and only help other people's needs, because then it seems that you are in the same sacrifice state of being. It means that every time you interact with another being, try to not move the conversation to gain any personal me need. Just try to see, what does this other person really need? Yes, because you at this stage are not here anymore to pursue things on this plane for personal reasons. You've already left pretty much of that, I guess. I guess most of the people who are watching this are not that concerned anymore with a career or anything of that sort on the outside. I think you are more concerned about waking up, being true to yourself, being true to each other, really see reality, being prepared to expose all the lies, including your own and all of that. And then every interaction with another human being will have a purpose. It will not be about speaking about the curtains. It will be about helping each other waking up. And in that process, you want to make sure that there is no personal motive behind it, and that you are afraid of that your friend will take that and that route because of personal reasons. You will let go of that fear more and more and more, and celebrate the very fact that you both are prepared to do this. You are both prepared to help each other to become free and not bind yourselves to each other anymore. And in this pursuit of truth, let me tell you this as well. Everyone wants to make sure that they are fine with life, that they are not lying, that they are telling the truth. So now when we are facing our conscience, we are facing it for real. Because back in the days, we might had a talk like this. We talked with ourselves. But instead of being honest with ourselves, we tried to bargain with truth. Remember? We tried to bargain with truth. Yeah, I have a reason for doing this, because this and that person did that and that, so surely I have a reason to do this. Or I can't do it another way. If only I had another way, but there is no other way. I have to do this. As soon as you have to explain yourself to yourself, you are probably lying. But guess what? Everyone does this. Even the so-called bad guys does this. I mean, even if you stop a so-called bad guy and ask him, what the hell are you doing? They're going to have a very good reason. And they're going to believe that reason themselves. That's what's so amusing with all of this. I've also talked about it a lot of times. In none of my previous lifetimes, I ever called myself evil. I had enemies who called myself evil. I never called myself evil. I always thought I was good. I could basically live a life on one side and then be born in the next life on the other side. And in both of these lives, I considered myself good. But when I lived here, I thought this one was evil. When I lived here, I thought this one was evil. No one identified themselves as evil. No one wakes up in the morning and say, haha, I'm evil. Today I'm gonna hurt the good people. They think they are the good people and they're justifying their own behavior. We all do that. But the trick is that we shouldn't have to justify our own behavior. We should want to be true with our own behavior. But everyone does that. Justify what we're about to do means we're lying to ourselves. And that is also something that needs to end. To see that at the core of things, we are good and we are super, and just see where that path leads us, the path of truth. But of course, why we continue doing this, why we lie to ourselves, is because we want to remove ourselves from the real pain a bit longer. We want to stay alive a bit longer, but really we are not staying alive. And once all the cards are tumbling down, we might feel horror, but we should be grateful when everything is coming up to the surface. We should be grateful. So another interesting concept of this is that when everything is purged, when everything is over, there's only peace. And some people, they think that peace is boring. Yeah, because peace doesn't feed the ego. The ego fears peace, because in peace there is no drama, there is no identity, there is only perfect relationships, and that is boring. And spiritual development, reaching the higher state, is not boring. When some people say, yeah, I want to go to God, but not yet, because you want to sin a bit longer. And the only reason why you want to sin a bit longer is not because you really want the sin in your life, it's because your ego is a junkie. If you ever try to quit coffee or, I don't know, sugars or smoking or whatever you've been addicted to, everything is going to be so boring. That is not the fix that you need. Everything is going to be boring. It's going to be everything you think of during the day. And nothing else can replace that desire, because you've been a junkie. And it is the same with all of these concepts that you're letting go of. So the ego will say, reaching that state, being only nice and good and seeking peace is boring. I don't want it. But yes, you do. Because the higher state is about 10,000 times more awarding than this state. The colors are brighter, the love is greater, the creativity is fantastic. The freedom is amazing. You can't be compared. That's why some people cry when they get a glimpse of it and then they have to get back down here. So yeah, that's pretty great. And you don't want to miss out. But if you are in a junkie state, then that fix is all we can think about. So we have to get de-junkified. We have to become unaddicted to what we're addicted to down here, basically. And this is also one of the reasons why I said that you don't need complicated spiritual techniques. Because most of you will seek these spiritual techniques because you want an easy way or whatever. And most of this is the lies of the ego. Because the ego doesn't want you to wake up. So if it can make you believe in a very complicated path that you can't possibly reach, or you have to climb the Tibetan mountains, or I don't know, enter a secret society in order to get the truth, then you can't wake up and you're safe. Because what can little you do? And if you're trying to find a way that it's only, oh no, I can feel peace and everything is good and there's nothing negative because I'm already good and perfect and innocent, everything else was a lie, I can't suffer, everything is good, yada yada yada. That's also a lie. This path isn't easy. It's easy because it's not complicated, but you still have to make up with yourself. I mean, you can distract yourself. Distract yourself for some lifetimes. Distract yourself for some years. But eventually you'll have to do it. You can't make it easy on yourself. Eventually you have to take up the phone and make that call to that person that you're trying to avoid. Or whatever. The path is easy. But it takes some guts to do it. And I don't know, it's not really scary either. It's not that like you don't have energy to be brave. You are brave. You're avoiding it. So you might say, I'm not brave. It just means that you don't want to face up with things. But you still can do it. So now we talked about there is no evil. I always address that in every video because it needs to be said again and again and again. Live that life when you are the evil emperor of the universe and realize, oh shit, there is nothing I'm afraid of anymore. I am the fear. I am the evil. Do that to get it out of your system, I was going to say, to finally get it. And there is no death. Use your own logic to figure that out. If you don't really know it truly in your own heart, there is no death. Figure out what I try to explain about this being ashamed of being separated from everyone else. And it's really a shame. And that you're trying to protect yourself from the lies you're telling yourself by remaining intact, by remaining perfect. I'm fine. Everything is fine with me. There is no problem. Or maybe dwelling in the problems and making yourself a victim. Everything to evade the truth. And try to grasp what truth is. What it means to come clean. In every conversation you have with another person is something that you're holding back. Are you trying to say everything around the subject without addressing what you really want to say? That is one indication of fear. And as soon as that comes up to the surface, it feels so good. You gonna wonder why on earth you kept it down, why you tried to protect it so hard. Because it's led to so much suffering. And help each other with uncovering that truth. And you can only start helping other people constructively once you don't have any own motives of your own. If you have motives of your own, you're going to be a hypocrite. Every one of us is guilty for that if we have our own motives. And we're probably going to have a lot of internal motives. We're going to be a bit happier when something happens than if another thing happens. And we can't just be grateful that everything is slowly waking up. And try to let go of that fear of things having to end in a certain way because you need it. Trying to let go of that part of you needing something and see how it makes you feel. if you can't feel that, wow, I'm feeling pretty safe and pretty good. I'm actually feeling way better when I'm not trying to direct things in a certain way. How is that? Yeah, how is that? Because you're leaving the fear state. And all of the wounds you're still carrying is keeping you in a fear state. So every time you let go of some of these fears, you're actually going to start feeling more safe. And you're actually going to start seeing things more clearly. And that seeing in itself is going to make you see that there is no death, that there is no danger, that there is no evil, that you can't be attacked unless you attacked first. It's going to change everything. And eventually, these steps going to lead to immortality. So there is no easy, short way to immortality except describing that is your home state. It's a natural state once you removed separation. And you're keeping yourself separated because you are afraid that if you go close to everyone around you and be yourself, your secret's going to be exposed and you've done something bad and you can feel it, so you rather remain safe in your protective state. Then approach everything with a full heart. But you are okay. And you're going to manage to do that because you're great. There's nothing wrong with you. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. You're okay. You scared yourself up now plenty. No need to continue scaring yourself up, keeping yourself afraid, keeping yourself small so you become a smaller version of yourself and then disappointed that you are a smaller version of yourself. No need to keep that ego guilt that it collects in the past. Try to show you, oh, this long time you've been this and this. Let go. Once you let go, you're never going to look back. And guess what? At the end of this process, when we reach the center, and we're going to reach that, whether some people choose to sleep or some people choose to face their fears and wake up. Once this is over, this place is also over. And yeah, is it at the end of the world? Sort of. The end of this dream. The end of this dimension. Time's gonna run up with time, so to speak. And that collapses this dimension. And when it collapses, you can say that this world is destroyed. It's a dimension collapse. And it will be like everything that ever took place in this time and space never happened. So whatever guilt you can still feel will forever be gone, because this time and space where it existed is gone. It will be a memory. And that memory will be stored as an experience. And it will not be a personal memory anymore. It will be an experience for all of us. So eventually we are freed from this. But until we are learning and emerging until the very end of this process. And everyone has already made their decision internally to what they're going to accomplish. You can already see the ending of what you want to do here. So you are going to pull through to the very end. And you're going to be helped by the outside coming at you. You're going to be helped by everything coming up to the surface. So you can truly see and you can truly claim what is you. And get rid of what is not you. So don't be afraid you're going to miss it, because you can't miss it, because this whole experience is for you. So isn't this a very beautiful story in the end? In the original relationship, the whole thing is going to end when we finally have each other again. The man comes to the woman, and the woman is not trying to hold him back. She is welcoming him. So imagine the sorrow of not being yourself for so long. The man has loved the woman, wanting to be close to her, wanting to be close to her, for her to admit that she really loves him, but she won't say the words, and she will push him away. At the same way like that, you have been separated from your own heart, from your own self, from your home, from God. Pushed away. Not understanding why. Not understanding the pain. Not understanding the suffering. Pendling between crying and being so angry. Not not understanding why you can't be loved. And then finally, something gives. Finally, something gives. And the woman isn't pushing the man away any longer. And he comes to her and she says, I love you. I've always loved you. And it will be then like nothing of this ever existed. And what is it that gives? What makes the woman change her mind? You facing the fear. I leave you with that for now. This is a very long video, but I hoped you enjoyed it, and I hoped it warmed you and given you courage in this journey, and more very soon. See you!